Well, greetings, Mac enjoyers, and here's what I cooked up for Clin Week today. Yeah, as you can see, Linny, aka Lin Loud Jr., and Clyde McBride are both cheering on the two teams that will be competing in the NFL this Sunday. Yeah, Lin Loud Jr. is cheering for the Seahawks, and Clyde McBride is cheering for the Patriots. So yeah, because this pick is themed around sports teams, I decided that they should be wearing jerseys from the two teams that will be competing in the NFL this Sunday. So yeah, it's a pretty exciting game for NFL fans, but not everyone's a fan of football, and I can understand that. So yeah. Yeah. Alrighty, let's see what I can test on the PowerBook G4 to the Shuriken App Store. Here we go. Let's see what I can find. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Oh look. I remember this. Comic Life. Never used it that much. But it's still there. Alrighty. Yes, this requirements and everything. Let's see, 1.55. This is the last version that is made for both Intel and PowerPC Macs. Okay. Yeah, and there's also Blender 2.6. Yeah, I didn't know they made a version of Blender for PowerPC Macs. It's a popular 3D modeling software. See if I can find a game to play. Yeah, there's Slope Rider and Chromatic Rally. There's Total Immersion Racing. Yeah, it seems to be all versions for classic macOS, despite the fact that this program was released in 2003, which would indicate a macOS 10 exclusive program. But I guess some people were still using classic macOS even in 2003. Okay. Yeah, I haven't tried this emulator out yet. Yeah, it's an Atari emulator. So let's give it a whirl. I can think of a game to test it out with. Yeah. Certainly not E.T., but another famous game that a lot of people played on the Atari. So let's see what it could be. It's time to test out some Comic Life. Yeah, it's verifying. Yeah, it's a drag and drop. And of course we have to authenticate it. Because this Mac has a weird process of you having to authenticate every file you put into the applications folder. Isn't just drag and drop just like the other Macs that I've tested in the past. Here we go. Let's find it. There it is. Comic Life. Comic Life. Yeah. Think that Macintosh Garden might have registration numbers. Yeah, this is Comic Life. Ooh, look at there. It's pretty cool. Yeah. Sound effects are amazing. Yeah, no sound effects for the zoom. Sadly. But you have sound effects for rotate and making the panels bigger. Yeah, this might actually come in handy for a lot of page layouts that I do for certain comic commissions. Or if I wanted to draw my own comics. There. Okay. Colors. Try to fill it with a color. Let's see what kind of sound effect they have for color fills. Yeah, a sound effect for moving the panels. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Alright, let's see. Yeah, you got speech bubbles. Pretty cool. So yeah, that's comic life. Anyways, let's test out the Atari emulator that I downloaded. And believe it or not, the best-selling game of all time for the Atari 2600 is Pac-Man. Even though the version of Pac-Man is not that great. So yeah, it's a game that I downloaded to test out. And I also got Space Invaders. Space Invaders. Alrighty, let's test out Stella. I don't know why it's called Stella. Yeah, it's not supported on this system. Yeah, unfortunately, the version that I downloaded is not supported on PowerPC architecture. Should have checked before I downloaded it. Yeesh. Anyways, I want to see which version of Stella will work on PowerPC architecture. I made sure to download the correct version this time. I downloaded version 4.2, which is meant for macOS 10.5. This one, version 3.9, is meant for macOS 10.4. So yeah, before I test out a ROM, I have to get the controller set up, and I just so happen to plug in my MSI gamepad. So yeah, go to Input Settings, select Game. I'm gonna reset them to the defaults first. Alright, there we go. Map. Okay, reset. Down. Keep in mind, there's only one button. Alrighty, let's test the ROM. Yeah, I had a makeshift downloads folder, so yeah. Inputs. Yeah, we need a lot of games. You need game reset. Okay, so I'll map it to one of the trigger buttons. Yeah, because F2 functions differently on Mac OS. Alright, here we go. Now we're talking. Yeah. Can you believe that you can play Atari games with one hand on the controller? Well, if you play it on an actual Atari console, you need two hands because of the joystick thing. Yeah, these are simple games. Nothing more, nothing less. Yeah, any system can play those. Could probably even play it on a Macintosh Quadra if you wanted to. Yeah. Quadra 630 or LC 630. Yeah. Okay, here we go. That's Space Invaders. Oh man. Got destroyed. Aliens are going faster and faster, and the tension gets higher and higher. So you have to be careful. Oh, jeez. Aliens are just... Ooh, man. It really gets harder, doesn't it? Well, harder. But it was a game that was designed for the intent of a high score. It wasn't meant to be beaten. It was meant to... Yeah, you were meant to get a high score on it. But anyways. Next game to test out is Missile Command. Here we go. Yeah, this is another classic on Atari. A lot of classic Atari games are arcade ports. Boom! Yeah, not as impressive as the arcade version, but still. You can't beat that Atari boom. Alright. Let's do it, man. Yeah, Missile Command. I don't know what you're firing at the missiles, but... you're trying to stop them. Yeah, that's Missile Command for you. Up next is a game that a lot of people have played, and was pretty famous and infamous at the same time. It's Pac-Man. Yeah, the Atari version of Pac-Man, which, yeah, was very popular because it was the only home port of Pac-Man that most people have played at the time. Yeah, there also exists a 5200 version, but not a lot of people bought the Atari 5200. For a lot of people, it was the 2600. But anyways, let's test out some Pac-Man. Yeah. Yikes. Did you hear that noise? It's worse than the frickin' Chinese handhelds. Yikes. Yeah, this version of Pac-Man is not that great, but back then, it's all a lot of people had. If you wanted the best Pac-Man experience back then, you had to go to the arcade. Yeah, it is not that great, but it was the best-selling game on the Atari 2600. Yeah, and that is something that I don't even dream of saying. Yeah, one of the worst ports of Pac-Man is also one of the best-selling games on the Atari. Yeah, it's the sprite flickering on the ghost. Yeesh. Boop. Yeah, it is an assault to the ears and the eyes. Yeah, it's the same Pellet Gobbler gameplay, but it's not nearly as good as other versions, and it just sounds awful. Yeah, it hurts your ears and it hurts your eyes. Although not nearly as bad as E.T. apparently, because it was cryptic. So yeah, that's Stella. The Atari emulator that's called Stella for some reason. Yeah, thank you for watching. You know the drill by now. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell just in case I haven't already done so. Catch you guys next time and peace out.